Welcome to the shiny side. We're looking at tomorrow's upcoming game between Pakistan and Bangladesh. And we have with us today, once again, a friend of the show, Umair Qazi. How are you doing, Umair?
I'm doing well, Faris. How are you? Thank you for having me
Very
again.
good, thanks. Umair is the man behind Hulk Love Guy and Well Pitched. Then we have with us for a second time, I think, on the show, is Hadeel Obaid. How are you doing, Hadeel?
Hi, Faris. I'm doing well.
Good to have you on. Hadeel is founder of Khelo Cricket. She also has been on the Singh Cricket Association for a while, and she has written for multiple publications like Wisden and Cricinfo. So I guess, Hadeel, you haven't been on since the World Cup actually started. So I guess I'll go to you first. What's your quick, sentiment in terms of how Pakistan's been so far for the most part?
I think Pakistan's been mediocre. I think that we usually follow our team with an expectation that, sure, they would probably falter. They're not going to have a perfect campaign. For them, they've never played in India. Specifically, this kind of side has not played. And so they're not used to the conditions. Others might have, a little bit more advantage. But we're used to seeing mercurial Pakistan. This time, I think we saw mediocre Pakistan. And that was probably the difference for me personally.
That was chilling but true. So I guess moving on, if you look at the context of Pakistan versus Bangladesh, right? So we've played them 38 odd times. They've basically beaten us 5 times. Three of them were in a single series after the 2015 World Cup. So essentially, obviously, the head-to-head is very much in our favor. If you look at where the tournament is, Bangladesh has lost 5 games now. So they're essentially out of it for all intents and purposes. As far as Pakistan's concerned, we have won 2 out of 6. We have 3 games to go. And while we do have an outside chance, there's been a lot of questions about what it will take for Pakistan to qualify. So I think we spoke about this before the last game. The biggest challenge of that, given how we played so far, is us actually winning 3 games, right? So whatever else needs to happen, I think it's probably easy or not. But first, we have to start winning games, for crying out loud. But I think I'm just going to still put this up on your screen for very quickly for people to see. And I'll put this post separately on social media as well. But the only way Pakistan can qualify without needing NRR is if A, we win our next 3 games, New Zealand loses all 3 games to us, South Africa and Sri Lanka, and then Sri Lanka loses at least one of the games to Afghanistan or Bangladesh. Another way we can potentially qualify on NRR is that if New Zealand loses all 3 games, we win all 3 games, and then we manage to increase our run rate versus Sri Lanka, which is slightly better than ours. At this point, the run rates of Australia, South Africa, and New Zealand are so high that it's not realistic that Pakistan can even catch up with them. So I'm not even going to get into those scenarios here. But that's just the situation in terms of qualification chances. Essentially, there's an outside chance. But again, I think it's much more important for all of us here that we need to start seeing our team winning games. Moving on to Bangladesh, I guess. So before we get into Pakistan, Umair, what's your take on Bangladesh? I mean, they've batted first a couple of times, scored about 240 odd, but they've been chased down easily. They've conceded 350 plus scores twice when they've been bowling first. So how do you look at Bangladesh?
Yeah, I feel Bangladesh campaign has been really disappointing. They've not looked good at all. It's actually shocking that they beat Afghanistan. That's the only game that they won. And given how Afghanistan has performed, I'm shocked that they lost to Bangladesh. But yeah, Bangladesh seem all over the place. They don't have their 11 right, or even if they have their 11 right, they don't have the right people in the right positions. Mahmudullah, who scored 100 and a few 40s, is batting as low as number 7. I don't know why he's not batting higher up. Mehdi sometimes bats at 3, sometimes at 5, sometimes at 6, 8. So I think they don't have their strategy right. They don't have their game plan set. And they've been quite disappointing this World Cup.
Hadeel, just picking on from where Umair left off, Mahmudullah, he's the only guy who averages above 30 in the side in this World Cup. Everybody else has just been. So how do you look at Bangladesh? Do you want to add anything to what Umair said?
I would say that I feel like Bangladesh is being left behind. It's surprising to see how in a 10-team tournament, you would have expected them to at least sort of fight against Afghanistan. You would have assumed they would have possibly won against Netherlands, not to take anything away from Netherlands as a team, but to see that Bangladesh literally folded. They had no fight in them. I would say they've played below par. And when you compare to the 2019 World Cup campaign, and when you compare to how Shakib Al Hasan and some of their players were clicking 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And to see, it's almost like seeing a decline of Bangladesh cricket
Yeah.
over the last 4 years. And I think that they've played cricket well below their potential. They possibly will end up as the lowest team on the table.
Okay, so I guess this conversation will mainly be about Pakistan, but clearly it looks like Bangladesh are in a bit of a mess right now, perhaps worse than we are. If you come to Pakistan, right, I think we have to start at this point. So I was looking at the people who've batted 60 balls in this tournament and their strike rates against spin. So I think, I forget who number one is, the lowest is. Steve Smith is 2 and Babar Azam is 3 at 65%. And since 2022, against left arm wrist spin, Pakistan has the worst record. We're averaging something like a wicket every 12 balls for 16 runs. So Hadeel, how do you see, I guess, our batting and specifically how we're taking on spin and how it's been impacted the tournament so far?
I think, and this might be laughable, I think it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. This whole World Cup has been about two things. One, how Pakistan didn't take adequate spinners. Two, knowing full well what Indian conditions would be. And two, how our batsmen are unable to play spin. And we've seen it now sort of manifest itself in the matches when you're expecting that Babar's going to come on, he's going to hit pace, and he's going to get out to spin. And every time you've thought it, it's happened. And you're seeing it consistently happen. Oh, if Iftikhar can't play spin, don't send him up the order. Oh no, he needs X number of overs to bat. No, let's pull him up the order. How could Pakistan send him up the order when they knew he can't play spin? This is an absurd thought process in my head. You are an international player. Sure, you can have weaknesses, but at the end of the day, how can you think that you're going to face 40 overs of pace? I mean, it blows my mind that this is sort of how we've just justified poor performances. And on the other hand, you're seeing people like Abdullah Shafiq, who's actually been able to play spin well. You've actually seen little glimmers of hope here and there where you're like, oh, okay, Saud Shakil seems to be doing all right in that department as well. Okay, he's maybe not played to his full potential this World Cup, but he's somebody exciting to look at. But it's actually been laughable to see the entire social media and this entire Pakistan cricket campaign of play spin, watch Pakistan get out. It's like a formula right now at this point.
Yeah, we're picking up what Hadeel said here. So Saud Shakil is the only guy. So he's averaging, his strike rate is above 100 against spin, but also against pace. So again, like she said, there's this perception that he plays spin well, but he just seems to be playing everything pretty well, to be honest, right? So Umair, how do you see the batting coming along?
Yeah, if you remember our previous show, I mentioned that Saud Shakil is probably our best player of spin.
Yeah.
And you said already, the guy has barely come in and we've made him into Javed Miandad. Yeah. I mean, he showed the potential, right? He is playing everything well, you're right. And this thing against spin is just, as Hadeel said, laughable. I mean, we gave 4 wickets to Tabriz Shamsi, 4 wickets to Kuldeep Yadav, 3 or 4 wickets to Noor Ahmed, all left-arm wrist spinners. Pakistan, the batsmen probably don't have practice against bowlers like these. I don't know if they face them in domestic cricket. I don't know if there are. I've heard 2 names, some Sufyan Mukim and Faisal Akram, but I don't know who they play for. I don't know whether they've Pakistan has used them in the nets. I don't know if they've faced them in or any sort of spinners besides Shadab and Nawaz. I mean, Shadab, Nawaz, Usama, baki kisi ko tang nahi kar rahe, to hamare batsmen ko kya tang karenge nets mein? So they need to practice. I mean, this is what they should have gone through before coming to India, knowing the conditions here. And look, Babar comes out, he looks really good for his first 20, 30 runs. And then, as Hadeel said, when the spinners come on, he kills the whole momentum. We've seen it happen. The 74 of 92 deliveries or 50 of 65 became that and not run a ball because the spinners came on. And he struggles, and everyone else has been struggling as well. Abdullah Shafiq and Saud Shakil have played well against pace and against spin. They're looking like our 2 best batsmen right now, besides Rizwan. But yeah, this thing against spin is, although having said all this, I don't think the Bangladeshi spinners will trouble us. But generally, everyone else will be and is.
I mean, having said that, we probably can easily expect to play 20 to, depending on how we play, 20 to 30 overs of spin, right? Because Bangladesh has the option. So I think if we go in with the same mindset, then we can expect them to line up the spinners back to back.
Yeah, but I don't see Bangladeshi spinners being as big a threat as the Afghanistan ones or the Indian ones, or even, for example, like someone like Zampa or Santner. They're not as big a threat as these bowlers.
Yeah.
I agree.
And okay, cool. And moving on to our bowling, right? So, I mean, Shaheen is averaging 22 on paper. but he's still taken 2 power play wickets in the last 8 games, right? So clearly there's something that's still missing there. I think Mohammad Wasim Jr. was a breath of fresh air. I think he's somebody who probably was maybe the pick of the bowlers last time around. I mean, Haris Rauf finished well once again, but he still is averaging close to 50 if you take the Netherlands game out. So I guess Hadeel, maybe you go first on this one again. How do you see and also how do you see the bowling, especially the quicks, shaping up so far?
It's a bit disappointing. We used to think that Pakistan was the kind of team you could put 250 on the board and they're going to fight like hell and they're going to defend it. And now you're worried. It's not your fine. We lost Naseem, but let me tell you, a lot of teams lost a lot of players, and not one of them looked as handicapped and as unprepared as Pakistan have. Mohammad Wasim Jr. performed well against South Africa. That to me was the biggest shock of them all, because if you had seen how he had been playing the previous games, not in the World Cup campaign, but prior to that, I would have thought he would probably get hit for 400 runs alone. Let's be honest, all of us were kind of sitting there with bated breath when Hassan Ali got fever, and we were thinking to ourselves, Hassan Ali and Chennai in the previous game did fairly well. How is Mohammad Wasim Jr. going to do? He's been like, it's good to see that, okay, we had another option there. Shaheen feels like he's trying really hard to take wickets in the first spell, like as if like that is his thing. Like he absolutely has to, because it used to be his thing. But the irony is he's picking up everything in the second spell when he's coming back in. He'll pick up maybe one, but he'll be expensive in the first 3-4 overs, and it's when he comes back. Haris Rauf, it should be illegal to bowl him with the new ball. Like you cannot give it to Haris Rauf. Like if you want to throw a game away, please tell Haris Rauf to come in and bowl and like the 10th over, and you can just you can kiss your chances goodbye, because he's always been a good death bowler. Nobody's taking that away from him, but he's far too expensive this World Cup in the earlier spell. And you can't be getting hit for 24 runs and 17 runs off your first over and absolutely shattering any momentum your team had. And then fine, you're making up for it later, but the damage is done.
And I just on that Mohammad Wasim point. So I think Umair and I did the Pakistan preview before this tournament, and I think my take then was I actually rated Wasim fairly high, but in the last 4 games leading up to it, the Asia Cup and the warm up, he was all over the place. So even though his record suggests average of 27 in about 30 odd ODIs, but he was looking like a shamble, which is how Hassan Ali kind of came from outside and made it up the pecking order, and it was quite a surprise. But yeah, I guess in terms of tomorrow's game, Umair, I mean, I still feel like given the way we bowled last time, especially, I feel like Quick should be able to do fairly well against Bangladesh. What's your take on that?
Okay, so against South Africa, हमारे bowlers का कोई कमाल नहीं था. हमारे bowlers का एक wicket का कमाल था. वो थी उसकी लुंगी गिरी की wicket जो हारिस रऊफ ने cotton bowl किया था. That's probably one of the best cotton bowls I've seen in my life by a fast bowler. It was amazing. That wicket was Haris Rauf. All the other wickets that fell was South Africa getting nervous while chasing a target. They gave their wickets away. Markram Usama Mir ko aage jo shot mari hai, completely nervous shot. He did not have to play that. So they gave their wickets away. Hamare bowlers ne koi khas kamal nahi kiya. Again, I agree with Hadeel that Shaheen is trying really hard in the beginning. But see, one thing good I noticed against South Africa was Shaheen ne pehla over bahut full karaya trying to find that swing. He got hit for 4 fours. He came back the next over, pulled his length back. So he didn't find that swing. He immediately adjusted his length and bowled better. But yes, he didn't pick up a wicket. De Kock ki mil gayi while he was playing that pull. But his second spell where he tries his cutters, tries the slow balls and more variations, and Haris does the same, that's when they're getting wickets. Now, having said all this, yaar, bowling kisi ki nahi chal rahi. बुमराह के अलावा एंड नाउ शामी इन द लास्ट 2 मैचेस, इन 2 पेसर्स के अलावा पूरे वर्ल्ड कप में हर बॉलर पिटा है. हर बॉलर. आप न्यूजीलैंड ऑस्ट्रेलिया का मैच देख लो यार. दोज स्टार्क, कमिंस, हेजलवुड, हेनरी, फर्ग्यूसन, बोल्ट, दे आर 2 बेस्ट पेस अटैक्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड कप probably. चलो, आफ्टर इंडिया they got hit for 390 runs, both the attacks. Everyone, South Africa is scoring 400, they're also getting hit for 300 or 350, right? Sri Lanka scored 330 odd against them. So these are not bowling conditions. Every bowler is going to get hit. It is your batting that needs to put those runs up so that the bowlers have some, like 280, 290, nahi defend hoga in pitches pe. Anyway, we're talking about Bangladesh. I think our bowling should be fine against them, just because Bangladesh has just been very disappointing, and
Yeah.
their batsmen don't look like scoring at the rate like these other teams are doing.
Yeah. And Hadeel, just to round up the bowling conversation around our spin, we're averaging 80 our spinners combined. They've taken 8 wickets. Osama Mir has come in and he was meant to be the savior, but clearly he isn't. How do you see that? Is that a surprise for you?
It's not a surprise to me. Shadab had lost his touch for quite some time. And so we're not really counting on him. I feel like Shadab is now sort of on the side as like almost like a Shoaib Malik kind of a role, like a batting all-rounder at this point, where you expect him to come down at like number 6, number 7, and like bat and get you those 40 odd runs, and then be really good at fielding. And then like you'd put him in for like bowling, but you're not really expecting him to like pick up a wicket. Like the maximum he could maybe do is slow down the scoring rate. Shadab has not been himself. I personally have never regarded Mohammad Nawaz as like some incredible spin. I've never really. So for me, like, I don't really think that Pakistan has any spin bowlers as such. We are sort of just relying on faith, some bad decisions by the opposition, and just hoping to kind of get through the overs. Ifti has actually stepped up. And I can't recall what his stats are of the last game, but the game before that, I mean, he was going at like 4.95 runs with his economy, which honestly, I mean, if it wasn't for him, I don't really know like how much worse it could get for us. So he was sort of the surprise package. I have heard that Saud Shakil can also bowl a little, but we have not seen that. So I don't know what the situation is with that. But as of regarding Pakistan spinners, what you sow is what you reap. You didn't come prepared. You didn't have a backup plan. Your batsmen aren't prepared against spinners, and to be honest, your own spin doesn't really know how to. They're not a Kuldeep. They're not a Rashid Khan. They're unable to. They're either bowling the balls too fast, or they're unable. They're just trying to get through their overs. They're not effective. Like not a single one of them is instilling fear in the opposition. Not a single one, which is honestly disappointing.
Yeah, and I think no one will argue with that fact. Very quickly, let's look at this leads into the likely 11. So my sense is, assuming Shadab is fit, him and Osama will play tomorrow, and then potentially I'll be looking at Fakhr replacing Imam. So Hadeel, you want to go first? How do you see the 11?
Yeah, I think Fakhr will come in for Imam. It's surprising to me that Imam has had the form that he's had this World Cup. So I would assume they're probably going to give Fakhr a shot. They had mentioned something about his knee. I don't know what's going on with that, but he seemed okay. I think he was like fielding in the earlier game as well. So he's clearly fit. I don't see why. I mean, no disrespect to Bangladesh, but if there's one game that we should be the keyword here, win, it should be against them. So I would assume Fakhr being there. I would assume definitely Osama and Shadab if he's fit. And I'm surprised you put in Wasim Jr. Yeah, he's done well. But I mean, Hassan Ali had done well in the previous games before that. So I mean, yeah, I guess they might keep him on, but.
I guess my answer would be, I feel like in this game, Wasim was probably better than Hassan has been in any game. But again, I know it's a smaller sample size. I would go towards Wasim. Which way would you go?
I would be curious as to why we wouldn't drop Haris Rauf and try Hassan Ali instead, and do Hassan Wasim. And I mean, if there's one game you can experiment, it's the Bangladesh game. What do you have to lose at this point?
The reason
you don't have a semi-final spot. Might as well just like try all your players and figure out what works.
The reason I wouldn't do that, Hadeel, is because I feel like Haris has been not used appropriately. We've been talking about this earlier on the shows, and so you mentioned it too. Don't give him the ball in the first 15 overs, right? So I think I would keep him in and use him a bit later in the innings, but I would probably still use him for that. But Umair, what's your take on the 11? How would you go?
Yeah, for the last 3 games, I've been saying that Fakhr should play ahead of Imam. I hope it finally happens. On the bowling, I agree with Hadeel. If Hassan Ali is fit, he needs to be in the 11. Mohammad Wasim Jr., after last match performance, should be in the 11. It's hard to drop Haris Rauf. Maybe I would even go with 4 pacers. Why not? And the match is in Kolkata. If you saw the Netherlands-Bangladesh match in Kolkata, there was this grass tinge, middle grassy patch in the middle of the pitch. when the ball pitched on that, it was seaming both ways. Play 4 pacers, play one of Shadab or Osama, and go with that. Why not? I mean, you have Iftikhar, you'll have Iftikhar, you'll have one of Shadab or Osama, and you'll have 4 pacers. I mean, it's not bad. I think you could do that too.
This is something Shastri says. He said you pick your best bowlers. Doesn't matter if they're spinners or quicks, right? So I think at this point, if you look at your best bowler strategy and you look at see who you're playing, what you're saying might make sense, Umair, in terms of 4 quicks.
And in your Shadab and Nawaz don't make your best bowler list.
Yeah,
not your top 5.
I mean, and Adil's right. Like now, I'm seeing Shadab as your 5th/6th bowler who can bat. That's the role he's getting into.
If that is the role he will get into, he needs to maybe start batting in the top 6. I mean, not at 7 or 8. He should fit into the top 6. Someone who can give you maybe 3-4 overs, and he's a gun fielder. And I like that role for him.
In fact, I think we said this on some other show, right? But I said Shadab against spin bats at about 110 or 20. So in the depth, that's not good enough. But in the middle overs, that's excellent, right? If you can actually take on the spin in that fashion. But so Umair, so on the toss, what would both teams look to do if they win the toss? What's your take on this?
I think Pakistan should bat first. Bangladesh will probably look to bat first too. I think they both will look to bat first. Because again, we saw the Kolkata pitch in Netherlands-Bangladesh game. The second innings, it just became unplayable under lights.
Yeah.
The ball was all over the place. Delida and that Logan Van Beek and Paul Van Beeken were unplayable. I don't know if Bangladeshi batsmen made them look unplayable, but they stayed unplayable.
But we'll have the same guys to bowl at, right? So that doesn't change. Adil, what's your take on the toss decision?
I thought the same, that it would be better if we batted first. Also, beyond just the conditions, I think it's important for Pakistan to know that they can bat out 50 overs and to stop getting bowled out in that 45 to 49 over window that we do. And I think it would require a little bit of game awareness to get us there. But I would love to see Pakistan, no matter what we post on, it would be nice to see us not get bowled out. It's been a World Cup of Pakistan essentially getting bowled out in majority of the games, even in situations where it seemed almost impossible that you wouldn't play out the 50 overs. We did the impossible and would get out in 48.4, So it would be nice to see that.
Okay. And
there's one team playing less overs than us, and that's England. They're getting out in the 30 to 35. We're still getting to the 45th.
I think they require like 10 episodes of their own to actually dissect what's happened there. But Hadeel, to finish up on that, what do you think would be a target first inning score for us?
What should be the target?
Sorry, say that again.
325.
Okay. And how confident are you of getting there?
I think we should be able to get there. Okay. Like I felt like we were going to get there in the last game, and then the number 8, number 9, and number 10 forgot how to bat somewhere in the middle. But if we can actually remember that we're all like a proper team and can like present ourselves as such, despite a few wickets falling in the middle, I don't see any reason why we cannot score in that 310 and 325 window.
Okay, cool. And Umair, what's your take on the target score?
Look, I would like to aim even higher, given what the other teams are doing. Try for it. Try for 350. You may not get there. You'll maybe get to 320, 330. That's still a good result, but at least try. Show that you are trying to put up the scores that other teams are trying to put on. I still feel we are the 270 to 290 range team. I would like them to show that they're better and at least try to get there. Let's see.
And who Umair
is? But Umair, sorry, please, but just to get to what Umair was saying, the reason why we end up being a 270 to 290 team is because everybody else's bowlers can somehow bat a little. They're not all trying to hit sixes. They're just trying to finish off the innings, as opposed to our players who, even though they've been in the side for like 5 years, if they're in the number 8, number 9, number 10 position, they're trying to hit sixes and are not, there's no game awareness, right? So when that's not happening, you end up actually losing 25 runs, give or take, which would have easily been yours if all they had done was stand there, hit just a little here, a little there, and take a single. That's all that was needed. I feel like in terms of skill, there's not that much difference, but I think that is the reason why we've not gotten past that 290 bracket.
And it seems like
Yeah, no,
whatever
you're
game awareness
absolutely
we
right,
had,
right?
also, it seems like we've lost it all of a sudden, right? Like, I don't think we would play this way every time. But I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, the pressure of the World Cup, or just not recovered from that 2-day ODI we played against India or something like that. But it seems like we've lost the plot.
Well, look, I mean,
Absolutely.
Nawaz, there was no reason for Nawaz to play that shot. He had 4 overs left. He should just look what India did today. Look what Bumrah and Kuldeep did today.
Yeah.
They took it all
Exactly.
to the 50th over. And as you said, the other team's bowlers, Pat Cummins, the innings he played against New
Yeah.
Zealand, our main batsman can't play like that.
Agreed.
And Pat Cummins' innings made the difference at the end in the result. The way New Zealand chased those 30, 40 runs that he got at the end was the difference. So
I agree. For me, the first thing that came to mind was Shaheen Afridi. You've been in our side for enough years. You've
yeah,
come in, you're aware of the situation. Why on
yeah,
God's green earth are you trying to hit a six when you
Yeah.
know
yes,
that all that's required of you right now as a
yeah,
mature senior player, you've been in the side
yeah,
for longer than 5 years, you are now a senior player. You, as a mature player, you should be standing there and just rotating the strike with Nawaz being on the other end. But you chose and that's what worries me, right? Is that how is it that everybody else has game awareness and game plans, and for some reason we get brain fades between the 45th and the 50th over, and all goes like to hell,
Yeah.
basically.
So I guess, Hadeel, before we wrap up, what's your prediction for tomorrow?
I mean, we're 100% winning. Like, it would be absurd if we lost at this point.
More upset than losing to Afghanistan?
I thought Afghanistan was always going to challenge us in Chennai. It was never going to be advantage Pakistan in that game, regardless of what anybody thought. Also, they were on a high after beating a team like England.
Okay.
You could tell that they were a threat and they had that belief. And we came out like a defeated team, to be very honest, at that match. And I said, okay, well, they got one over us. Let them enjoy this
It's
victory.
okay.
We'll get them next time.
Okay, so you have Pakistan winning tomorrow, Umair.
Pakistan.
Cool. I think I have the same sentiment at this point. So let's hope we can do a show at some point, some of us, after a win here. But before we wrap up, guys, we have this thing on the show in the end where there's a quiz. And Hadeel, since you haven't been on as much as Umair has, maybe you can take this one. And feel free to ask Umair for help. So only once before, so Pakistan, by the way, for the first time has lost 4 consecutive games. You guys probably know that in a World Cup.
Yes, it was
Only
all
once,
over.
yes, only once before this World Cup have we lost 3 consecutive ODIs. Who was the captain when that happened?
Waqar Younis.
I know.
Is
You
it
wanna go, Umair?
Misbah? No, it can't be.
We lost 3 consecutive ODIs in the '99 World Cup.
And
Just
the answer
Wasim
is,
3 consecutive? Damn,
So
I thought we were
yeah.
we
damn
lost to
good.
Bangladesh, then we lost to India, and we lost to South Africa.
Yeah, so we lost to Bangladesh in the end of the league phase. Then in the Super 6, we lost to South Africa and India before beating, I think Zimbabwe it was, and then made it to the semi where we beat New Zealand. So, of course, our very own A Sports president, Wasim Akram, was the captain there. But
so
anyway.
We, in the Super 6, we needed to win only 1 out of 3 games because we had carried forward our points from the previous league. And losing to Bangladesh didn't make us lose points because Bangladesh did not qualify for Super 6. So we lost all irrelevant games. We lost all irrelevant games and then played the final.
I actually think that format was probably the best. I know this one is good too, but you can't have enough teams then. I think that was the right format, but I would probably just carry forward all the points. That's what I would do.
Yeah, it's coming back in 27. It's coming back in 2027.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. 2027 in South Africa will be the same format as 99.
If we have an ODI World Cup in 4 years.
In South Africa. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
If we have it, right?
There's so much speculation around it that who even knows.
Yeah, see, the thing is, ICC have sold the rights till 2031. So there are 2 ODI World Cups within those media rights. So I don't think they can get out of it. After 2031, possible.
If the ICC go to whoever they sold the rights to and they say, hang on, we'll give you another T20 World Cup, they might just take that, right? So anyway, I hope we have more ODI World Cups, but I won't be surprised if this is the last one. But
let's see.
But again, thank you for being on the show, Hadeel.
Thank you, Faris, for having me.
And thank you, Umair, for being on the show once again. And for those of you who've been watching this,
it's always a pleasure.
Please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and we'll be back tomorrow night after the Pakistan-Bangladesh game. In the meantime, stay tuned to the shiny side.